Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Micadelic. I'm Mike Brancatelli. But of course, you already knew that. You've found the show, you've found Micadelic, you've subscribed, you've downloaded it, and you're listening to it. So really, there's no reason for me to intro the show like that anymore. I guess I'm just a creature of habit and have been doing that for a while. I guess if you found Micadelic and you're listening to the show, you don't necessarily need to be reminded of what you're listening to. It reminds me of actually a great joke by comedian Brian Regan, who says, he's like, why do they have to put the title of the book on top of every page in the book when you're reading it? He's like, do people forget what they're reading? You know, they're reading through the book and then they get confused. They're like, what am I reading? And then they go and they look at the top and they see the title and they're like, oh, okay, cool. If you don't know Brian Regan, he's great. He's a really silly, weird, funny comedian, clean comedian, but enjoyable. I enjoy him. He's funny. He's put out some good stuff a while back. I don't know if he's put out anything recently, but yeah, he's got some good things in there. Good material. Well, welcome to the show. Welcome to a brand new episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening, and thanks for all the love. Thanks for showing your support. Really appreciate it. We have 138 5-star reviews, ratings and reviews in Apple Podcasts now, which is great. And I highly encourage everybody, if you can, to just take out your phone, go to Apple Podcasts, to Micadelic, and just scroll down, to where it says leave a review, or it says ratings and reviews rather, and I think it just says tap to rate, and it would help out the show tremendously if you could leave a 5-star rating. If you want to go a step further, leave a review. Those are always really, really nice. But what this does is this is the way it helps the show grow and spread. And if you like what's going on here, that's great. I mean, I'm, just so overwhelmed with joy and appreciation and gratitude when people go and take the time to do that. It really it bumps the show up in the algorithm in Apple Podcasts. The more ratings and reviews that come in a given period of time. So, like, for example, if the show just got like 100 ratings and reviews over the course of like 2 weeks or something like that, there's a good chance that Micadelic could appear in the what's hot, what's trending category. There's the new and noteworthy category, but we're not in that anymore. It could be the what's trending, what's hot category, where we're featured on the homepage of Apple Podcasts, and then people who are wanting to hear the kind of things that we're talking about get to find them, and that would be a huge help. So thank you. This couldn't do this show without you guys, so I appreciate the love and support. And if you want to go a step further, you can go to patreon.com/MikeBrank, BRANC, and you can donate as little as $1, $2, $3, $4, $100, whatever you want a month, and that helps support the show and keeps us going. So thank you very much for all that. Well, we have a good show for you today, and I say good because it is with Bill Byrnes from GoodCinema. GoodCinema is an organization here in Denver, Colorado, in sunny but cold and not depressing Denver, Colorado. It is a beautiful day out, even though it's cold. The sun is shining, and that really makes it bearable. So really enjoying it out here, getting to meet a lot of really interesting, motivated people that are creating really cool, unique things like GoodCinema. GoodCinema is a film series that happens here in Denver at the Alamo Draft House, where people get to come together in an auditorium, in a movie theater, sit down in their seats and watch thought-provoking films, and then have a panel of experts answer questions and talk about the material discussed in the films after the screening. And then they open it up to the audience, and they get the audience involved, and they get people talking, and they create a dialogue, and people get to share their stories and their thoughts and their opinions and ask questions. And it's really, really awesome. It's a great idea. It's an amazing way to get out and get connected with people. And they partner with charities and nonprofits in order to help drive action in the community, get people involved. Because really that's the only way that we're going to make any sort of change around here. And this is such a great thing because I wish that this existed in, New York when I was watching a lot of interesting documentaries. And, I think we all have a tendency to watch really interesting stuff, whether it's like on YouTube or, documentaries that we see. I remember seeing the Zeitgeist movie series, The Zeitgeist, which is, I think, by Peter Joseph, and was really, really interesting, talking about the history of the Federal Reserve and the banking cartel and sort of control and manipulation in society and like where we're going and all these sorts of things. And then I watched that great documentary by Adam Curtis called The Century of the Self, which is so amazing. I definitely recommend those. Go check those out if you haven't seen them. So many great documentaries, DMT, The Spirit Molecule. But you watch these documentaries, you watch these films, and then you want to talk about them. Maybe sometimes you want to talk about them with people that don't really want to hear about them, or they're not interested. So getting people together to come out, get out of your house, get out of your sweatpants, turn off your TV, go somewhere, sit down and connect with people and join other people and join experts and really talk about the story, the message that the film is trying to communicate, and what we can do to help jump on board with some of these messages that these films are communicating. So it's an awesome thing, and I highly encourage anybody who's here in Denver to go check it out. Go check out their events and go follow them, go find them. GoodCinema.co is their website, www.goodcinema.co, and Good Cinema on Facebook, Instagram, and you can find out when their next events are and what they're doing. I know they're going to be holding one on psychedelics in March. There's a lot of really cool film series that they're doing. So check that out. It's awesome. And what else? Go follow Mikeadelic on Instagram. Go follow me on Instagram. I created an Instagram profile or page or whatever the fuck it's called like a while ago, and I just didn't really do anything with it. I was posting more to my regular, my personal account and not really doing anything. But that was mainly because I was so addicted to social media and I was just on it all the time, and I just wanted a break. I wanted some separation, but it's better now that I'm using it intentionally for the show. So I'm creating more content. I'm releasing, I'm doing quotes, and I'm giving my take on them, like books that I've read and impactful quotes from those books, and kind of giving my take on those. Cutting out podcast clips from episodes and sharing them on social media. I'm posting memes when I see something that I think is funny or something like that. I'm posting some funny memes. I'm also posting little short video clips, because sometimes what happens is, I get on this show and I talk and I have some good conversations with people, and then I do solo shows as well. But that's not just contained to the podcast, guys. I am constantly ranting and raving about all sorts of things, either to my girlfriend over breakfast in the morning, or to friends out at night, or to myself on a walk, in the park or something. So I'm going to try and capture those moments where I'm kind of just going off on a topic and put that into a little video format. I mean, it's just my iPhone and me on video, so I don't know why I said video format, but you get what I'm saying. But and I'm just gonna call it Mikeadelic Mike Row Doses. How clever. Such genius here, folks. So but yeah, those are going to be like short little videos. They're going to try and capture moments where I feel like maybe I'm hitting on a cool topic and I'm flowing and I feel connected, which I don't right now. And maybe you can tell I'm feeling a little disconnected for whatever reason. But sometimes I just get into a connected flow state and I can just start going off. So I'm going to be releasing videos where I'm talking about certain things. Most recently I was talking about the new advancements in technology and how, really it's always a double-edged sword. We have technology and it grows and it's doing all these things and it's cool and people are really excited about it. But, really we're just kind of enslaving ourselves more and isolating ourselves more if we're really just kind of mindlessly using the technology. And the technology is always introduced as ways to make us more efficient, more efficiency so we can be more productive citizens, and so we can keep working nonstop and stay on the treadmill and don't get off because you don't need to, because you'll have an Amazon drone that'll fly into your office and deliver you a hot dog when you're hungry, and all these efficiency tools and security and safety tools, right? Like this fucking social credit system that's going on in China. If you haven't heard about this, go look into it. It's straight out of Black Mirror, and it's fucking terrifying. I recently was listening to Richard Dolan, who I highly recommend. Richard Dolan. I'm not going to say anything more about him. Just go to YouTube and search Richard Dolan. He's fantastic. I think he's a really brilliant thinker, one of the best ones we have right now. And he was talking about, the new 5G technology that's coming into place and in the infrastructure, and this social credit system that China installed. And basically what it is it's a social credit system. It's like a credit score, but instead of just for your finances, it's a credit score for your life. So the Chinese government gets to decide how worthy you are based upon how, if you're a good little boy and a good little girl, if you're good little citizens of the government, then they're going to start rewarding you with, if you go along with their messaging and what they want you to think. As soon as you start, dissenting or having any of your own thoughts and opinions that don't align with the status quo of the established power, then then you're in trouble. You're gone. So look into that. It's crazy. And the reason why I think it's 100 million% coming here to America, and people are going to love it. People are going to want it. People are going to want it because there's so much divisiveness and polarization and separation and arguing, and there's racists and there's Nazis and there's bigots and there's child molesters. And so wouldn't it be great if we knew people's social credit scores so we could tell if there's like if whatever area we're in, there's good people or bad people, wouldn't it make us feel more safe to know, and so that's how it's going to be sold. It's always sold with a smiling face. It's always sold as, a help, safety, security, efficiency, and people will clamor for it. And that is scary. Very, very scary, because we think that progress equals technological innovation and material external things. But really, if we keep just going that way, we're going to enslave ourselves if we haven't already. We're going to enslave ourselves willingly, gleefully, and then we're going to wonder what the hell is going on. But maybe we won't, because it'll just be the new normal and people will just get used to it, because human beings are very good at adapting to changing circumstances. So we really have to just be careful. We have to be aware, and we have to use technology consciously. We have to use media consciously. We have to start using technology to get, to find the others, bring them out, and and get together with them in community, so that we can start designing the world that we want to live in, and not living in the world that's designed for us to live in. All right, well, that's just a little tidbit of the thoughts and ideas that I wanted to talk about. I went much further and much deeper, but I think I'll be maybe releasing something like that on my Instagram soon, so check that out, Mikeadelic_podcast. Go to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star rating and review. Go to patreon.com/MikeBrank, and check out Hemp Bombs. Go there. Put in the code Mike15 and get 15% off CBD products. Go to Synchro for plant-based keto nutrition products and get 20% off. Just put Mikeadelic in at checkout. All right, without further ado, psilocybin was the name that was bestowed upon Bill Byrnes for this podcasting episode. Actually, he came prepared with that name, seeing that, I am Micadelic, or at least people refer to me as Micadelic, and this is the show Micadelic. So Bill came in with his psychedelic name, and that's Bill Osibin. I thought it was pretty clever, if I must say so myself. So without further ado, Bill Byrnes from GoodCinema.
Psychedelics are illegal not because a loving government is concerned that you may jump out of a third-story window. Psychedelics are illegal because they dissolve opinion structures and culturally laid down models of behavior and information processing. They open you up to the possibility that everything you know is wrong.
We don't need new laws that control our consciousness and rigidly place it in a prison.
Cognitive liberty. The fact that as adults, if we're not hurting anybody else, we should have the right to explore the contours of our own consciousness without any mediation or legislation on the part of somebody else.
Reject authority. Authority is a lie.
Words of perception.
Information is power, but we have to seize the opportunity. The opportunity.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast, Bill. I got to say, you've been just an awesome person since, moving here from New York, coming to Denver, and hooking up with you and other people. And, there's a cool scene here, and you're a part of that scene. And I'm super psyched that you're on the show to talk about these things today and, just have a good conversation. So, yeah, I got Bill Osibin here with Mr. Micadelic in the Micadelic Studios here in Denver, Colorado. Bill Osibin. Bill runs a program, or should I call it a program? It's called GoodCinema. You can explain it.
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me, Mike. So grateful to have met you. Glad you're here as part of the Denver community, and glad to be on the podcast. GoodCinema, we'll call it an organization, we'll call it a movement. It's many things, but what it is most of all is a platform for people in the community, nonprofit organizations here in the community, businesses in the community, to connect together to watch thought-provoking films and documentaries, combined with thoughtful discussion, often involving a panel of experts, and connection to local causes. And so we partner with nonprofit organizations to help drive action to these causes, and our events focus on current issues that are affecting society and our world and our people.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it seems like just an awesome thing. I'm a huge fan of film, cinema, and also, these important issues. So combining the two, to me, and making it this like event, what we're doing right now is going to be, this is virtual, right? I mean, there's people that are just kind of hanging out. Maybe they're on the treadmill, they're running, or they're, driving in their car on their commute, or they're, whacking weeds or whatever they're doing. But it's usually kind of a more private, more intimate thing, listening to a podcast. So to have an auditorium at the Alamo Drafthouse, right? And bring people together to share that space and be engrossed and enraptured in a cinematic event that has a message and a point, and then an opportunity to discuss those things. I mean, to me, that sounds like just an epic kind of function that you're bringing to the community.
Yeah, well, our thought was, and I'll put this into terms of what the listeners might know. So, imagine a psychedelic experience that's quite profound, that you learn a lot from, but you don't really know how to proceed. What do you do with that? How do you go back in a normal society? How do you go back to work after realizing everything you once thought is now questioned? And your world is completely different now that you see things from a new perspective. And a lot of times that's a good thing, but it challenges our belief systems. And And so with a psychedelic experience, integration is necessary to really learn how to bring what you learned within yourself outside into the world. And then what are these next steps and actions to take to then implement that and integrate that within your lives? And that's what Good Cinema does with film. There's so many good documentaries out there, fantastic movies that have been created to drive social change in certain areas that these filmmakers are very passionate about. But I feel that a lot of these films, the film experience is only one part. And so we're missing the other two critical pieces, one of which is unpacking this, learning about other people's experiences, other people's perspectives in the community. And then the next piece is taking action, really taking these next steps to really carry out that mission and the vision that the filmmaker had. And the purpose of making the film was to get people motivated. But a lot of times, I mean, people have work and family and other obligations that exist that it seems like a lot of work and a lot of time and effort to be able to be able to drive this change. And that's where these nonprofit partners that we work with come in to really help create a path for people in the community to make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important, because our mainstream society doesn't necessarily provide these things for us that are so important, so rich to the human experience. It's like when we look at the leaders of our society, people in government and these sorts of areas, the people at the top, that they're not necessarily like, in most cases, they're not necessarily providing the necessary structures that a community would need to come together, to put aside differences, to bond with each other, to heal, to grow, to learn, and to help solve some of the biggest problems that we're facing.
That would require them to actually value those things.
Yeah.
And when we look at the root of it, that's the number one problem. And our number one value is humanity over greed. And while we might focus on 20 different issues in a given year that are all across the board, there's one common thread that goes through all of them, and that is our value of, at this point, in this country at least, and others as well in the developed world, is that greed and money and profits are valued over humanity and us and our environment and the animals and plants that we use to help sustain life. And yeah, that's where we need to be looking.
Yeah, definitely, because like you said, they'd have to value those things, and they sure as hell don't value those things, because when you value those things, you have a healthy, independent, progressive community of wise individuals who all of a sudden can start thinking for themselves, learning how to self-organize, voluntarily come together, develop compassion, and that doesn't necessarily serve the interests of the
yeah. Well, you use the word self and think for yourselves, and when we look at this thing called consciousness, there's a song by one of my favorite producers, Living Light, that's called War of Consciousness, and it really gets into how these external forces try to control how we think, and that's the most sacred thing that we have. And when we look at a country like the United States, that we have the Bill of Rights, and the number one First Amendment is freedom of speech and religion, and it's my thought is it was intended to be something that was freedom of thought, freedom of consciousness, but it seems that those are the things that are attacked and the things that we aren't really free to explore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's psychological warfare on a certain level, because we pay lip service to those things, but we don't carry them out. We don't follow through with that. And that's a really, in my opinion, like a high-level deception in a democracy, is to give you the illusion of freedom. And that sort of contains and makes the population a little bit more complacent and more dependent, and sort of all of a sudden now you can just be dragged into this like status quo, right? In the status quo, the elites, they set the tone for what the hierarchy values. And so in order to survive, you kind of have to fall in line with that stuff.
Yeah, and I guess that's the unfortunate piece, is that even in a society like ours, which is an individualistic society, there seems to be, I guess in our country, it's individualistic, but it's to serve a certain or these certain elite individuals. but it doesn't allow for free thought of everyone else. And in school, we're all taught the same thing, and we're taught to be, or we're measured based on these standardized test scores. And we go through this kind of standardized schooling, and we don't learn things like what a mortgage is, how to balance a checkbook, how to pay taxes, these things that are just kind of normal.
How to get out of paying taxes.
Yeah, how to get out of paying taxes. Exactly. Oh no, those are certain private schools that teach that.
Yeah.
But
that's that whole Yale thing.
Right. And things like emotional intelligence and just learning about ourselves and exploring ourselves. It seems that there's no room for that. There's so much room to learn what certain interests want you to learn, but not an emphasis on what fits you best. Who are you? How can we help you learn in the best way you can and help you become the best you?
Yeah. I mean, so the greatest societies, in my opinion, are the ones who carry out the tradition in which you are sort of the way that I envision good cinema playing out, and what its mission is and its vision is and what it's actually doing in the community is really kind of restoring the tribal campfire stories that informed the value systems of the hunter-gatherer nomadic tribes in our past, where there would be this sort of chief who didn't necessarily, run on like a $1 billion campaign, for power, but who was selected by the population to say, like, okay, you can be the guy that just hangs out and just talks, and people come to you for advice. And, if you ever try to exert your power over us, then you get ostracized. You'll get banished to the forest, this. But one of the most important things is this gathering the community together, gathering the tribe together, and telling stories that can be interpreted in such a way to inform the value system of that tribe, to honor that and strengthen those bonds. And I think that in this modern time, cinema, done in this intentional way, can do that, can bring that back.
It can, yeah. And I've watched so many films that have been truly life-changing and so transformative for me in so many ways. I'll just bring one example, Cowspiracy. Now I know, like most films about food and diet choices, not everything is 100% accurate, but what I really took away from that was that I wasn't really thinking mindfully about how I eat. And it was something I never even put any thought to. But if there wasn't this story about it, and there wasn't this kind of diving deeper into it and asking certain questions that I never asked and making me kind of think in a different way. Again, I think that's the big key, is this different way of thinking. It enabled me to see that the dairy was not serving me. It led to a lot of flatulence, to the dismay of my wife.
A lot of scientists listening to this show, so they understand. Yeah, you were ripping ass a bunch.
Yeah, quite a bit. So that was dairy and beef. I was like, whatever. I'll go to pork, the other white meat. That's a whole other story. Found out that was red meat, and that's
what
sad.
They told us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, more of these messages. So yeah, anywho, just the perspectives and learning from someone else's experience to gain more empathy, I think, is the key of storytelling, and something that is really helpful in the art that it comes out of in these films. But then it's unpacking it, it's discussing it, it's saying, well, what did we learn? What did you think of that? So that we don't just leave the theater and then forget about it a day later. It sticks with you when you make these connections, as well as these new perceptions of what this issue is we're focusing on.
Yeah, and I think, most people are just like, go to a movie, you watch the movie, and then on the way out, you're just like, oh, what'd you think? You're like, sucked. And I'm gonna leave a 1-star review on Rotten Tomatoes. This movie blows. Ryan Johnson can suck my anus hole. Or whatever, and then that's kind of it. Or you go on and you're quoting movies like, oh, today was a bad day for milk. Milk was a poor choice. These are the quotes that kind of stick us and stuff like that. But then, when you get to other kinds of films, there's really a dense bunch of, especially with documentaries, obviously, right? There's a message that's being communicated there. And they're really trying to combine this high level of information dissemination and package it up in an entertaining and compelling way in like what, hour and a half, 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to go on and discover after that. Many documentaries have done this for me, and I talk about it on this show. I bring them up a lot, but to actually be in a room with somebody and then have that happen and then be able to converse about that and form, a community around this dialogue. What are some of the things that you've seen, like some moments that have stuck out after a screening of a film and a panel discussion took place? And, what kind of things do you see play out there? Any moments that really stuck out to you?
Yeah, I'm going to focus on our second event. It was focused on immigrant detention, and we intentionally held the event on September 11th. And it was powerful. In an issue that is so politicized and seems to be so divisive among certain groups of people, while our audience may not have been the most ideologically diverse, the way that the narrative played out was extremely interesting and heartfelt. It was stories that were being shared. One of the panel members, Victor Galvan, runs an organization here, Colorado Immigrants' Rights Coalition. He himself is an undocumented immigrant that was a dreamer. He had DACA designation and now does not. And he told his story about how his mother was selling burritos for the construction workers, and that's how they made ends meet here in America. But they had so many more opportunities here, and he's so prideful of a place like this that has provided the opportunities. And he uses his inability to take part in our civic process, i.e., voting, by taking more action himself. And so his pledge this past September, going up to the election, was to register 10 people to vote every day because he couldn't vote himself. And so his goal was to register as many other people as he could to vote. And hearing his story was just amazing, and what he does is so amazing. And so he was there at the event getting people registered to vote. There was also another story there from someone that had immigrated and had worked with her state senator to get status, and just shared an extremely vulnerable story of her coming to America and how she was able to gain status here in this country. Then afterwards, people were thanking me for hosting this event, saying how meaningful it was to them to be able to be a part of this, to be able to have their nonprofit organization be able to engage with the community at such a deep level. And after that event, there was one organization there by the name of Casa de Paz, which does such amazing work. They have a home that they enable, or they allow immigrant families to stay in. They allow immigrants to stay in when they're getting out of detention, while they're getting connected to their families. They host dinners all the time, and they have many, many volunteers that go visit the detention center. And my wife and I went one week, and just an extremely inspiring experience. We were their bright light. We were their inspiration during this hour that we got to chat with them across a pane of glass. And these people that I normally never would have gone up to and had a conversation with at a restaurant, I'm there getting into this deep conversation about life, and it was just so incredible. It was this spiritual high, and it was described to me as that before I went in, and I was kind of thinking, whatever, that sounds kind of hokey, but it truly was. And so I encourage those of you who are in Denver, go to casadepaz.org, and I don't even know if that's their website, but look up Casa de Paz, Colorado, and you should find them. Yeah. And please sign up to volunteer. It's an amazing organization. And if you're elsewhere, go to an immigrant detention center. Find out when visitations happen, and go visit someone, because they're human too, and they have so far less human contact. They've come here for opportunity, and they've been shown another life here. And despite that, they're still so upbeat and so happy that they're even here, given the situations that are often the case in their home countries. And so that was kind of a long way of saying there was also, I've known people that have been volunteering for that organization that were not even at this event, that heard of it through people that were at the event. And so it's this really cool and so super inspiring ripple effect that we're seeing of people learning about ways to engage in the community and people stepping up and taking action. And that's why we do what we do.
Amazing. I mean, human connection. Who would have thought?
Right.
It's like, come on, we there's so much, and it's so interesting. You hosted the event on 9/11.
Yeah.
Okay, I have some things to say, but maybe you could say why you decided to host it on 9/11.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. Why I even... Well, yeah, I'll go back. So when I started Good Cinema, because this was our second event, I wanted to set kind of 3 events as a series. So I wanted to start with a social justice film series. I thought, what better way to kick off this new movement by diving right into social justice issues that we typically avoid because they're uncomfortable to talk about. And so let's talk about it. That's our slogan. So I look at the schedule and I see our first event's August 7th, and I was thinking, well, maybe 5 weeks apart is good. And I notice, September 11th is 5 weeks away. Perfect. Let's do an event then. And I initially was going to focus on something not having to do with that, but then I realized, wait a minute, this is a really, really cool opportunity to be able to look at a date that has a very special meaning to a lot of people because a lot of pain was caused on that day. But if we look at the after effects, a lot of pain has been caused to a lot of people and large groups of people because of the way, or because of where they're from, because of how they look, because of the religion that they practice. And that I saw as a grave injustice, as an event like 9/11 that should bring people together and seemed to, also seemed to alienate a lot of people and to push a lot of people away. And that's the pain I wanted to capture. I feel enough emphasis has been placed on the people directly affected by the events of 9/11, and not nearly enough has been placed on those that have been affected afterwards, such as immigrants and people of Muslim faith. And so, so that's why I focused on it, because I wanted to talk about immigrant detention on a day that immigrants are usually discriminated against because of.
Yeah, no, it's such a huge, important thing. I mean, 9/11 changed everything. It really did. I mean, I was, and it's very important. And, I bring this up, and 9/11 almost is like sort of a, I don't want to say joke, but it just seems like to a lot of people who grew up, didn't experience it, and grew up after 9/11 in the already created Patriot Act, NSA, post 9/11 world, they don't really fully understand the gravity of the impact, the change of the times. To have lived a life pre 9/11 and then post 9/11, you have a very different view of it. It's way more real. It's not like, when I think of the JFK assassination, it's like, oh, that was so long ago. And it seems, I just look at the Zapruder film and, the movies and all this kind of stuff. It's not as real to me. But so many things changed after 9/11. And one of those things was dehumanizing other people, casting us as the heroes and the others, the scary others, as the villains. And this, if we didn't have 9/11, maybe we wouldn't have Trump. I'm just, my point to that is saying that, like, we've created this world, or this world has been created, I should say. This world has been created after 9/11 that is divisive, is polarized, is, casts the scary other, the invaders, the foreigners, the disease, what does that do? More racism, right? More racism, more division, more Fear, exactly. Yes, fear. That's the word. We've created this panicked state, this fear paradigm, where we're scared of these things. But
that's not new.
It's not new.
I mean, look at
but this is during our time.
The Red Scare.
Exactly.
This is just a new flavor.
It's a new flavor.
It's just different people that we get to discriminate against to make ourselves feel more safe.
Yeah.
But again, I like to look at the root of the problem, and it's fear, and that fear is manufactured and expanded, and it's pushed out to the masses to serve the interests of those manufacturing the fear, or at least magnifying the fear. And just like Naomi Klein describes in the shock doctrine, it's this fear is used in these terrible events are used to justify the actions that are taken afterwards, when come to find out, those actions taken afterwards were done under false pretenses. And so I guess the real question is, who should we really be afraid of? The people that we're being told to be afraid of, or the people telling us to be afraid of those people?
Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, that's, sometimes you talk about this kind of stuff and people go, ooh, conspiracy, oh, woo. But look, it's just pretty simple. I mean, it's like there's interests that people have. They want to capitalize on those interests, and they'll do whatever they can do to maintain that status quo. I'm sure people have experienced times in their lives when things were going well and you had more affluence or something, and then you go down a little bit. It's like, that can suck. So there's, some people that'll do whatever it takes to get back there and to stay there.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to take a little sidebar on the
Wait,
whole,
before you take a sidebar, can I just, because what I was saying before, the whole point of what I was saying before was that the dehumanization of other people. But when you actually visit these people, when you see them, when you talk to them, when you sit down at a bar and you have a drink with them, when you share a joint with them, whatever it is you do, you're standing next to them at a music festival, in line at the bank, and an exchange happens, a connection happens, you see, oh, it's just a person. It's not this abstract number. They're not jihadists. They're not, Mexicans and rapists and terrorists and, these others that we like to categorize them as, these things that we dehumanize them with. And you're like, oh, yeah, I see you. I'm talking with you.
Yeah.
So
the realization is that they're just another version of myself.
Yeah.
All of us are just different versions of each other. And that's kind of the key. Once we figure that out, and hint, hint, psychedelics help with that.
Wink, wink.
Once we figure that out, everything else makes a hell of a lot more sense.
In silent darkness.
Yeah, do that.
Psilocybin says, hey, folks, feeling down, feeling like you're enslaved to the matrix of this illusionary reality? Well, sit back, relax, and take Dr. Psilocybin's 5 dried grams in silent darkness. Talk to me in 10 days.
Set yourself the nice soundtrack of life.
Yeah, so important. Just really one of the most important things. I had this weird thought the other day, and the thought was, I was talking about Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, who I'm a big fan of, or Chogyam Trungpa, founder of Naropa University, one of the greatest books of all time ever written about spirituality, cutting through spiritual materialism. His other works, Shambhala, and all these other things. But I think he also has a book called Smile at Fear, and it's amazing. I mean, his perspective on these things is so tuned in. But I had this thought the other day of like bombs being like dropped on like a population, or like and like police like coming down the streets and like shooting people, and like people just like laughing, like just like ha ha ha, like just laughing at that, and not stopping in that like laughter. Just be like, okay, cool, yeah, like you want to like kill me, all right, yeah, fun, yeah, kill us all, cool. And then the thought was really went deep into my soul, and it was like, we're just doing this to ourselves.
Yeah,
it's like. And if you're laughing at that, if you're smiling at that, and you're saying like, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, you want to throw me in a cage for eating a mushroom? Okay, yeah, that's hilarious. Like, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. You're not going to do, like, we're doing this to ourselves. That was the feeling. And I know it sounds maybe kind of insane, like out of context. But I'm not saying like if someone's pointing a gun at you to just start laughing at them. What I'm saying is like as a mass movement of people coming together to just stop, letting the fear get to you, and then just laugh at these people. The thought in my mind was that it's like, well, at some point there has to be some kind of reconciliation between the aggressors and the psychopaths and the people who are accepting it and laughing. Because it can't just go on like that forever. There's got to be some sort of like, okay, what's the goal here? These people are not responding to our threats and our intimidation.
Yeah.
You know, when I used to get in trouble in school, like they couldn't punish me because I was so insubordinate that they just,
No, not you.
I swear to God, like there's a level that you can get to when it's just like they just don't know what to do with you.
we
So
give up.
yeah, I remember this one time I was getting in-school suspension, and I was in the principal's office. She's like, "Yeah, you have in-school suspension, like, you know, because you've done these things or whatever." And I'm like, "Well, that sucks because that means you have to come to school." I was like, "I want out-of-school suspension.
Yeah.
Like, what do I have to do to get that?" She's like, "Well, you weren't being like, you know, like aggressive or anything like that. So it's not like a threat or something." So I just like, "What if I just knock this chair over?" I was like, "Is that good?"
What if I throw it at
And
you?
she's like, "Come on, no, stop." And it was like I had a good relationship with the vice
Yeah.
principal, and like and then I just like knocked her cup off her desk, and she's like, "All right, that's it, out of school suspension." And I was like, "Nice,
Thank you.
you know, because I didn't care. I just didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't care, you know. And it was funny. They didn't know what to do to, you know, discipline me or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, total sidetrack, but
No,
yeah,
no, I like
just-
that. I'm
I
going to
thought
stick
I had
with
a
that
thought
real
with
quick.
that,
It's
yeah.
like a bully that doesn't get a reaction anymore. If it, you know, if this person doesn't react to what you're doing, you're just beating them up and they don't fight back. Like, what fun is that? And so I see that being a microcosm of our society where we're allowing the bullies, if you will, these corporate interests to continually beat us up and to keep us living these perpetual lives of searching for this happiness. And, they keep dangling the carrot out there and keeping us happy enough. And especially in this society, they keep us distracted enough by money and what a lot of money brings that we lose sight of the things that really matter. And getting back to the human connection, that's exactly it. So maybe that's it. We use laughter more. I guess this brings me to another point, which is I don't think everyone has the ability to laugh because some people are working so damn hard every day just to keep food on the table for their families, and they're trying and they're working multiple jobs. And then other people like to talk about how if people just worked harder or got a better education, that they'd be in a better position financially, without really thinking about the root and why they're in that position in the first place. And fuck, man, I don't know. I'm just getting into this flow of like we need more empathy. We just need to care about each other, and that everything's a trade-off. And so, yeah, if we care about people more, there might be less wealth, but maybe that's okay. Maybe we need to start challenging everything. And when I bought a house here a year ago, we wanted 2 bathrooms, but we were okay with 1. So I don't know. Maybe we need to look at life that way a little more.
Yeah, America only needs 1 bathroom. You heard it here first. There's only 1 gender. There's only
One everything. Just different
one
shades of it.
everything. Yeah, I mean it's there's a certain level of disappointment, I think, that happens, and I've experienced this a little bit when you reach the sort of height that the society is telling you that you should aspire to attain. You have the money, you have the, fun, the drugs, the booze, the gadgets, the gizmos, the vacations, the, sex. You have these things, and still there's something else that's, what is that? It's missing. There's something missing there. And I think a lot of people feel this pain when they've reached this level that our society says that you should aspire to. You should reach this level and you'll be good. Once you get here, you'll be happy. And they realize, wait a second, there's a hole here. And I think that hole is community and connection with other human beings. We're social creatures. So there's a certain level of loneliness and isolation that happens when you walk down that path. And when you detach yourself from that path, initially there can be a certain level of isolation and loneliness, thinking, oh my God, who am I? I'm just detaching from the society. I'm detaching from the 9 to 5. I'm detaching from the norms and the values that I see in the TV commercials and the ads and social media and influencers. Who am I now? Where do I fit in now? But you fit in. You find there's communities because people crave this sort of thing. And you've seen that firsthand, right?
Yeah, but when we're distracted all the time, we become isolated in ourselves. When we look at the root of crime, addiction, depression, a lot of these situations are a result of isolation and loneliness and not feeling that connection. And the more and more that we get into these digital lives, the more we lose a little bit of ourselves. That's the great paradox that Good Cinema's really trying to solve here. Is this, the more that we get digitally connected, the less we become connected as humans. And we become connecting with each other through symbols and funny little quips and
memes
and I can't think of the word.
Quotes, sound bites, little dopamine hits, little fixes.
Acronyms. Okay. Everything's a fucking acronym.
Yeah.
That's what I was searching for.
DYOR.
Yeah, and we lose this eye contact. We lose the heart connection that you get. Even phone calls rarely happen anymore. There might be a little bit more FaceTiming, which is cool, but I don't know. I think we need to think about the way we use these technologies.
These screens are like bubbles around us. They're like protective layers.
Yes, protection. Yes, they protect us from kind of the fears of reality. And so we're able to step out of ourselves and be assholes sometimes. And we don't allow, or we allow ourselves to do things that we would not in normal society. Maybe that's a good thing, that society kind of checks us and balances us a little bit more. But I think another problem is, and another advantage of social media is, you're able to connect with people. It's just, what can we do with that? Can we use social media as a tool to help us connect with those that think like us, that we want to be with, that make us feel good, that are true humans, that we can then get offline and get together? And that's what Good Cinema is about. It's about pulling people together to have real conversations, connect as humans, leave an event feeling fulfilled, feeling connected to others. Hopefully you've exchanged some numbers. Hopefully you've learned something. And hopefully you feel motivated and are going to be doing something moving forward for yourself and for whatever the cause was.
So follow Good Cinema on Instagram and Facebook, and follow Micadelic on Instagram. Plug in the socials. But yeah, you're totally right. We get into these protective layers, and you're doing a good job of getting people to break out of that and come together with Good Cinema. So that's these are the kind of things that we need, because it's not going to be given to us. So we have to create those spaces and those places. And I had another interesting thought the other day about this world that we live in, where we are so connected but so separated, at the same time, and it's this really fucking weird feeling of connection and detachment, and it's with a lot of the sort of internet arguing and this sort of stuff, and the polarization, and whatever, just the misinformation and the little bubbles of just nonsense crap that people get involved with. And I was thinking this open world now, where anybody could record you on their phone doing anything at all times, whenever. Your laptop camera could be turned on, your microphone on your phone can be turned on, and now all of a sudden you're seeing ads for things that you're talking about, and this kind of stuff. It's this lack of privacy and transparency is really forcing human beings to face its collective shadow, in a way where it's it's jarring, and it's weird, and it's getting back to this idea of we're all one and we're all connected, and you're me living a different life and I'm you living a different life, and it's we're snooping and spying on ourselves. We're like mommy and daddy are sleeping, and we're sneaking around, snooping around the house, and it's
So no, this is an interesting side. I didn't even think of this side of it, but this makes me think, do you think we're that interested in other people to learn more about ourselves?
Yeah, I think what I think it is I think that all sentient life is just consciousness, which is one thing, this thing that we're in, whatever the thing is that we're in, that I can go like this and make a noise. Like this thing is experiencing itself subjectively through all the different points of view that have sentient life.
Yeah.
And so we're going through this period of time right now where we have there's transparency, there's lack of privacy. You know, everybody's uploading everything about themselves, everybody's recording everything. We're recording something right now. So it's like so many perspectives are being shared, so many different points of view, that it's a lot to take in, and it's challenging because there's conflicting points of view.
Like
and
a DMT trip. There's so much shit all the time. How do you fucking process it all? Yeah. Life is a trip, man.
Exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, like, I even have a firm example here of like we're all connected in this weird way. So I'm going to get real vulnerable. I like the smell of my earwax. Found out, saw a dog scratching its ear. It's a friend of mine's dog and a friend of mine, MJ. He scratches his ear with his back paw, sniffs it, and then licks it. Now, I don't do the lick part yet.
Thank God.
But yeah, and then I'm like, oh shit, like, cool. It's not just a human thing, but this dog is doing it too. And, you know, maybe that's part of social media, is to be like, okay, these other people are kind of like me, except then it turns into the comparing, and then we get into this whole competition discussion, which... Yeah.
Everything that you hate about somebody else is something that you hate about yourself.
Yeah.
That you're just not ready to face yet.
Yeah.
And because the lack of, you know, because of all the transparency that we have, because of, like, you know, we can see each other, we can see what people are doing all over the world at all times. We're watching each other, we're looking at each other, we're inspecting each other, we're like dogs sniffing each other's buttholes.
We're mirrors of each other.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's just one of those mirrors that kind of twist things a little more fat, a little more skinny, double-sided mirror. You know, we're just different mirrors of each other.
Yeah, man. I mean, fuck, I think we just solved the problem. I think, you know, if people just listen to this show, then the world will just be a better place.
Pretty much. That should be your new tagline.
If only everyone could just
Micadelic.
understand.
Listen and the world will be a better place.
What we're putting down here, man. It's, no, but, you know, I think that also goes into, do people have the capacity? Do people have the desire to? You know, the other day, to understand this, the other day I was looking at this documentary on Netflix called Insta Famous. Mm-hmm. There's this guy, he has an account called Fuck Jerry. And I know, like, a lot of people...
oh, yeah. I've seen a lot of comics saying fuck Jerry.
Exactly, yeah, because he just takes their jokes and, you know, reposts them and doesn't give credit, right?
Yeah.
And so that's like, you know, you are marked for death if you do that to a comedian.
Yeah.
You know, like, doing stand-up comedy for 3 years in New York, like, I learned, like, you do not do that. And if you do that, like, people will call you out and you will be...
But here's a question. If he posted your shit, would that make you feel better as a comic?
Possibly, but I would want credit for it.
Oh, you're saying no credit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's bullshit.
But anyway, so he posts a lot of stuff.
But, like, if he's reposting and then giving them credit, like,
then
cool.
That's fine. That's cool.
But yeah, that's bullshit.
But giving credit. So, but whatever. I mean, it's like, okay, we live in this time right now where this, you know, this Instagram account that posts, like, memes and stuff, you know, that are like fart jokes, pussy jokes, whatever. You know, you probably go on there, you can get a quick 10-second chuckle at something or whatever. It's nothing profound. It's nothing, you know, gut-wrenchingly funny or anything like that. But guy's got 14 million followers. You know, then there's people that are really putting forward, like, really thought-provoking content, really trying to make a difference in the world and the community. And they're really kind of, you know, falling on deaf ears or finding it a struggle to have, like, to build an audience and to create, you know, a movement behind what they're doing. And my thought to that is that, like, well, I guess this is what people want. You know, this is what people want. So do we even have the capacity to change enough people's minds to give a shit?
That's a loaded question.
I only ask loaded questions.
Yeah. Give a shit, I guess, can be turned into many different things. But in this case, what I see is people wanting one place to just see funny shit because people are mindlessly scrolling through and they're like, cool, this I can count on to always be at the top of my feed with something new that's funny. So, like, I get it. And yeah, people want shit that's easy because they're so distracted. They want shit they want to be able to easily see what they need, easily do what they need, easily get dinner, easily bring their dog to a doggy daycare. People want things simple because they're working all the time and then they're distracting themselves all the time because they're so burnt down from work. And so there's no time to really explore life, be themselves. Family time gets shortened and cut out. That's why. That's the problem. So again, it's these values, and let's pay people for working hard, regardless of if it's making money, make more money, or building a house, or teaching kids, or acting in a movie. I mean, these things should all be, I would say, paid about the same. Instead, some are paid millions and others are paid barely a living wage.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, teachers are the most important, figures, I think, in creating a wise, socially like accountable and compassionate, intellectually curious, responsible society, right? I mean, and just going back to like what I was talking about before with like tribal living and stuff, it's like, the wise old elders of the tribe found that it was their duty to serve the youth of the tribe in order to usher them in to be the next generation and represent, the values and embody the myths and the meaning of that tribe. And instead, what we see today is we see a betrayal of the youth. And this, you could say this, I don't know when this started, but, most recently, like a good example is like the Vietnam War, which was, a long time ago. But, young men were lied to and sent overseas to kill people for, not the right reasons. And the supposed wise old elders of our society betrayed the youth, and the youth comes back injured and traumatized, and can't properly reintegrate into the society to build the next generation. And this doesn't just affect the people who have been sent overseas and these sorts of things. It affects everybody at home too, by this sort of, I don't want to use the word trickle down, but this sort of like seeping into the culture, to seeping into the value system. So, I just really think that like it's really, really valuable to have these sorts of connections with, with people that we can really count on them and trust them to lead us in a right direction.
Yeah, well, you used a key word. You said it's valuable. It is valuable, but it's not valued. It's not valued at all. And that these are the things we need to be challenging. Why the fuck is a teacher not or barely paid a living wage, and people that basically get paid to just make money off of money sitting there make millions of dollars? My mind is blown by that. That shows that this is it's all just a game.
Yeah.
That people are preying on other people and, winning at their game while everyone else just sits there and takes it.
Right.
And when are we going to say we're not fucking taking this anymore?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think
I'm getting all anarchist.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think we've just been we've been beaten down so much, and we've just become accustomed to everything becomes a new normal. It's like a sales. It's like a product, that a company like rolls out, and they're like, all right, like, this is where we want to be in like 5 years. Like, let's market this idea. Let's let's disperse these, these plans, these ideas, these agendas out into think tanks and, contractors and educational institutions and Hollywood and the media. And it's just like, let's just disseminate these sorts of ideas so we can sell our, quote unquote product to be bought in on. And it just becomes, you're just conditioned to accept this as being sort of the normal, like, standard reality for $99.99. Like, order now, only one ever in existence for all time in the universe. It's like, no. There's other products, there's other modalities of organization, and there's other thoughts, and there's other kinds of things that can be offered out there. And so really what it takes people nowadays in our time, kind of rising to the challenge to try and aspire to take on those positions as the responsible, wise old elders of those tribes and really try and usher in a new society. Because, like I said before, it's not going to come from the top down. It's only going to come from the bottom up.
Yeah, and let's build a Good Cinema Co. At Good Cinema Co. to be as big as Fuck Jerry. So 14 million. If we get that many followers, we can start doing some shit. I mean, that's what, 5%? No, maybe less than that. Maybe 5% of how large America is. Maybe like 4, whatever.
Yeah. About 320 million people.
Yeah. Cool. So, that's a lot of people. That's maybe half of what voted for the president. So we can make some change. So let's do it together, y'all. But no, seriously, it has to be. And we have now technology to allow us to do that. So again, if we wake up and start using this technology as a tool for good, like we're using films as a tool for good, like we're using this podcast as a tool for good, we can get to a better place. But I feel like we're preaching to the choir. So those of you listening to this podcast, please tell 10 of your friends to listen to this podcast. It's dope. Mike is amazing. If you met him in person, you would feel his heart just radiating good shit. So, huge fan, and I've only known him a couple weeks, but super excited to get to know Mike more. And you all probably know him even a little better because you've listened to all of him talk so long. So, keep doing it. Tell your friends, and let's change the world, y'all.
Awesome, man. Thanks for that fucking endorsement. Just like, thanks for the love, brother.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
That's
thanks for having me.
Of
It's
course.
been awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's been really great. We have to do this again. And, I think that, what we're talking about here is really taking action too. So it's like, when you're telling your friends or you're sharing this kind of stuff, find some people in your community that maybe you can get together with and form your own things, and really kind of like join this anti-corporation corporation that's run by a bunch of decentralized, voluntary people, kids, young adults, early 30s people, whoever, that are actually doing these things independent of each other, but the larger zoom out perspective is, whoa, look at all these fucking stars that are popping out in the sky.
Yeah, that's kind of where I meant to go with that, other than, throwing out a impromptu endorsement, we are such an entrepreneurial culture right now, and we have, again, these tools at our disposal to, if you can create your own Instagram business by modeling somewhere and looking good in Bali, then you can probably do that for some good as well. And so what are these ways we can invent ways to make the world a better place? Our Good Cinema event this past Tuesday was focused on DIY art spaces and artists coming together to these collectives and pitching in on all being in one particular place to be able to live and to create art and to throw shows so that people can go watch underground music. Coming together and creating your own groups and versions of your own little communities will make you feel so close and in line with your purpose and help you find yourself and make you, feel not isolated. So I'm not trying to give advice, but I'm just saying, if you want things to be better, you want things to be a certain way, just fucking do it.
Hell yeah. Nike product endorsement. That's I mean, and this is so important, right? Because if we're going to kind of build a new world, talking on a grandiose level here, that's really what it takes. It takes those things. And if we look at how the current paradigm was created, it was created by entrepreneurs getting out there and inventing things and creating things that didn't exist before, and then collaborating and competing with each other. And so that's what's really going to birth this sort of like new era, this new way. All of us listening out there, all of your friends, all the people that you hang out with, all the people that are a part of this world right now. It's like, all right, yeah, like, can we make things better? Like, yeah, maybe we can. Okay, well then, start taking action to do that. And it can be as little as just saying, joining a Facebook group or starting a meetup on meetup.com, or just getting together with some friends and having like an intentional night where you like sit around, you hang out, listen to Micadelic, like, just talk with each other, do something to start making some momentum in order to bring about the change that you want to see. And, I sound a little preachy right now, but I'm just saying that this is a kind of an easy thing to do. And you'd be surprised at how fun it is when you start getting out there and doing it. And, you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know what kind of collaborations are going to come your way or opportunities are going to come your way. And anybody can do it. Everybody, listening out there has something that they care about, something that they like, something that they feel passionately about. I was very inspired by this guy, Tom Woods, who hosts a libertarian podcast. Listeners of the show know that I'm a fan of Tom's. And he was talking about this same thing and said, start a blog, start a social media profile, buy a microphone, start a podcast, just do it. The worst thing that you could say is, well, there's already so many people out there doing it, so I'm not going to try because it's, it already exists, and, oh, this person already does this kind of thing or whatever. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Fortunately, I was woken by the plant ayahuasca, and that kind of really pushed me on my path and helped me see what this path was for myself. But I certainly can empathize with all of you out there that are like, well, what do I do? I don't know what this thing is. I encourage you to do whatever it is, or whatever your way of searching within yourself is, whether it's through meditation, sports, yoga, psychedelics, many different varieties there that I'm sure y'all have explored on this show, that I'm more than happy to talk about. But the way that you get there doesn't really matter. It's just that you're doing something to connect yourself. Anything that you've ever said, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do that, just try it, and you'll find others that are there to support you, and you'll find others that are that appreciate what you're doing and want to collaborate. I'd say that's the number one best thing of what I do every day. My favorite thing to do is to connect with people. This morning I connected with a veteran that is now executive director of Veterans for Natural Rights, and is focused on helping veterans through psychedelics, and just super, super inspiring person. Then I met with someone that's a director of the Psychedelic Club of Denver, and talking with both of them about an event we have coming up on March 26th on psychedelics. Really, really cool event that I'm sure y'all hear a lot more about. But now I'm on this podcast, chatting with Micadelic, and I just get to meet so many cool people that are so grounded in their heart space and are so passionate about what they do. And I feel honored to be a part of their network and to be able to have the honor of giving them the platform of GoodCinema to be able to connect with their community on. It's just so inspiring. And I'd say the number one takeaway is, if there's something that you've been wanting to do for a while, there's a reason and it's needed. And there are going to be people that want that to be there. They just don't know it yet. So follow your heart and just fucking do it.
Yeah, and it's you find that, and I love this Joseph Campbell quote. He says, "Follow your bliss, and when you move in that direction, when you exert the inertia of your being into that direction that is calling you, that your higher self is calling you forward, your heart space is tugging at you to come forward. It's requesting you to accept the call to the adventure of the hero's journey. If you accept that call and you follow your bliss," Campbell says, "doors will open where there were only walls before." synchronicities will occur. You're actually pressing the buttons of reality creation. You're manipulating the energetic field of reality creation, and you're churning up this energetic life force spiritual machine in order to bring other sorts of things that are going to nourish and feed you into that space and that are going to provide you with opportunities. And not only that, but other people who are doing the same thing and needing that puzzle piece that you have. And the other person has a puzzle piece, that can fit something that you're doing, and vice versa. And so, yeah, this is this is probably one of like the greatest things that you could do if you feel the call to do that, if you sense the call to do that. One of the worst things that you could do is sense the call to that and deny it. Yeah. And then you'll wind up in suffering.
Yeah, that's it. And to that point, I guess what's also so inspiring is nearly everyone that I come across and that I talk to and that I meet through what I do with Good Cinema is so true to themselves, true to what they do, aligned with their passion and their purpose, and just radiating heart. And it's so beautiful. And everyone that's helped Good Cinema, everyone that's partnered with Good Cinema, I can't say enough how thankful I am to everyone around me, because it does take a village. And everyone that's been a part of Good Cinema, whether on the stage as a panelist or in the audience, or supporting us in any other way through the work that they do to help get this message out and to put on these wonderful events, I'm so grateful for. So thank you all. Hopefully some are listening.
You mentioned that an ayahuasca trip kind of brought this on.
I did.
Would you mind sharing that experience?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Yeah.
What happened when the psilocybin encountered the ayahuasca?
So let's go back to, how far back do I need to go? I don't know. I'll just say over the past 4 or 5 years, I've been really exploring psychedelics and using psychedelics to explore myself. I've always been someone that's been very interested in social justice, and I'd say, care and fairness are at the top of my moralities. And so given that, I always thought kind of politics was the answer. Then I started learning more and more about how that works, and then I started diving into film a bit more, and I think I'm drifting off into another story. Let's go back a little bit. Okay. Where was I at? Okay. So I'm good now. Anywho, let's go back to psychedelics. Yes. So I was experimenting with psychedelics, exploring myself through the psychedelics as well. And a friend of mine mentions that he met someone that was bringing an ayahuasca ceremony to Colorado. And I said, cool, that sounds awesome. Let me learn more. So I talked to the facilitator, and it was interesting because I didn't really know what to expect going into the experience. And so he's asking all these questions about my intention, and I'm kind of thinking, well, I don't really know what my intention is.
To experience ayahuasca?
Yeah, to see what this ayahuasca thing's all about. Like, right. I'm into psychedelics. I think they've made me, a more calm and empathetic person. So, I want to learn more about myself and kind of get to this place of more creativity. Because at the time I knew that there was something bigger for me. I knew that what I was doing in technology sales was not what I was meant to be doing. But I wasn't on this huge active search either. I was kind of, happy making my poetry, making a little music, kind of learning some things on the side and kind of just getting by until I figured out more. So fast forward to March 8th of 2018. This is the Thursday, and we were supposed to start the ayahuasca on Friday. It was a Friday-Saturday thing. And that Thursday, I had a sweet dog, Scooby, for a while, and he was about 13. He had some brain swelling issues, and he had some relapses, and at this point was pretty sick. He had been on steroids for about a year, and so his muscles were starting to atrophy, and he had started to kind of lose interest in a lot of things that he was into. And this day he stopped eating, and we kind of knew that was a signal that this was the end. And at this point, there was really nothing else we could do for him since he was so old. And so we made the tough decision to have him put down that evening.
Yeah.
And it was tough, but it was this kind of gentle, sweet moment where it was in our home, and the doctor that came and took care of it was just the sweetest. And so, we felt comfortable about it. But then the next day, we were supposed to have an ayahuasca ceremony. That's interesting timing. So,
kind of a little precursor.
Yeah.
The universe is sending out there.
Exactly. So Laura, my wife, she calls facilitator and chats with him, and says, hey, here's what happened. Is this something we should still go through with? And he says, yes, I encourage you to. This is usually the best time to work through, or times of trauma are typically the best times to use the medicine, and when it can help give you the most answers. And so we went into it with that intention of healing. And the first night, I would say, was pretty rough. It was unlike any other psychedelic experience I had ever had before. There were moments that were kind of akin to a DMT trip. There were other moments that were akin to mushrooms, others just akin to just straight nausea and diarrhea and all these fun bodily functions.
Yeah, you kind of forget about the body sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Other things.
Yeah, this one does not let you do that.
Doesn't let you
at
go.
all.
Yeah.
But yeah, what you learn is that you kind of have to get out of the body through this work through the mind, and yeah, it's its own onion to unpeel. So anyway, the first night was pretty painful. I would say it was humbling. Maybe the last 10% of it was pleasurable, but for the most part, it kind of sucked. But I felt like it was necessary to get to that important moment, which was to come. Because what I had heard was you have to get through the darkness before you see the light. So I decided to go the second night. Laura had a pretty rough experience. I won't get too into it, but she decided not to go the second night. But I ended up going back the second night. I felt compelled. I'm kind of torn now because I feel terrible for not being with her that night. That I'm sure was very tough, a night alone after we just lost our dog. And so I don't know. I feel torn internally from that. But I hope what I'm doing now is making up for it based on what I'm about to say. So the next day, I go back, and this experience was a little bit tough at the beginning, but for the most part was, I'd say about 2/3 of it was at least, pure ecstatic joy and like this internal rebirth and this awakening. To get more specific, I felt like I had literally broken through this fear that was kind of holding me back from following what was really true to my heart. And, these, I guess, feelings of justice and care and these kind of moral things that I've always felt within me that I've wanted to use my ability to connect with people to be able to help further, finally kind of connected within me. And I felt like I was reborn with this new sense of, I'm going to fucking do something. And I saw this, well, I'll tell the exact story. At the last moment when the shaman was offering the last bit of medicine, she said, "It's your last call for more medicine." And I heard the word medicine kind of reverberate in my head, and it turned into meta-cinema. And then this vision came of people congregating together from the community and watching films together, then talking about them together, and then taking action together to do something. And was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Imagine if this thing really existed. Like, I would love this place. Cool. So I kind of didn't know how to process it in the moment. The next day, I'm kind of like, holy shit, is this really going to happen? And I come home and I'm like, I'm going to start a business. Like I feel completely reborn. Like I'm a new person. I'm going to start a business. So then I read the book Do Cool Shit, written by a social entrepreneur, Mickey Agrawal, and awesome book that just kind of got me to say, well, fuck it. I'm going to start doing some cool shit. And that involves changing the world. And yeah, so that's kind of how that first experience went. It was truly profound. One other thing I noticed, I guess, happened right around then was my uncle passed away, and so we lost him right at the same time, basically as our dog. And when I went to his celebration of life, it's a moment where you have a lot of family in close quarters. And I noticed something profoundly different about the way that I reacted to them. Typically, being around a lot of family would, get me anxious and stressed out. And, I say things I don't mean and, just let it kind of get to me. But I felt so damn calm, just chill and, just a smile on my face, just I'm happy and thankful to be in their presence. It was just a really cool change of perspective. So yeah, that was my experience.
It's like getting wrung out, like like going through the wash, the laundry, the
Right.
dryer, the detergent, the bounce sheets, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're all get the lint out, and then you get the shirt, and it's a new shirt. You're a new you. I relate to that. It's an amazing thing. What was the fear that you experienced? What did it look like? What came to you in that moment when you said, holy shit, this is the thing that's holding me back? What did that look like?
So that's an interesting question. No one's ever asked me in that way. And so I sat back and I had to think for a minute, because I remember so many different visions and things that I did not have the intention of seeing. And I remember in that second night, someone near me at the ceremony, when we were setting our intentions at the beginning, said they went in with no intention. They just wanted the medicine to do its work. And I kind of thought of that because I talk about this with my wife a lot. Like, the intention setting seems like we're trying to force things. And isn't that kind of the problem with everything anyway? When we're in a yoga class, shouldn't we let the intention be to be present in that class and see where that goes? And so I thought that was a really interesting take. And so that's what's interesting, is I don't even remember the intention that I had for that ceremony. I just remember that someone else said that, and that mine ended up being completely opposite of what I had actually set. So getting to the fear, trying to make sense of it, it at least makes me think that maybe it's this fear of expectation, or I don't know, the fact that I just kind of got into a career that could give me, steady money to where I could just keep doing that to make money, because I felt like, or because my subconscious might have thought that was what it was. Because if people can do good with the money, but I guess I had never thought in that way of, oh wait, maybe I can apply what I'm doing to become a business, to do some good, to make money by doing good, and to drive money to these other causes, instead of hoarding a bunch of wealth like a CEO of a corporation might do. It's about using this organization to help spread more resources to the causes that really need it.
Yeah. This really just comes from like a change in your heart space. I mean, these kinds of changes, the kinds of people that decide to do these sorts of things, it's not that they're, it's not like there was a law that was passed that like mandated you to like, you have to do good now and share your wealth. And that doesn't change people. That just forces people to do something that they don't want to do. And people get triggered by that, and they get angry, and they go, well, fuck you. Like, if I'm the owner of a corporation, like, I should be able to keep all these profits. Like, you shouldn't be able to tell me what to do with my money. It's my corporation, whatever. All right, sure. Yeah, maybe they have a fair point. But the change has to come from within. I mean, Jesus Christ, could there be more of a cliched saying? I mean, but it's the only way that people change is by changing their hearts and minds, not by changing rules, regulations, and laws. People don't fall in line with those sorts of things. They revolt against those sorts of things.
Maybe not enough.
Yeah, no, totally true.
Not that I'm suggesting that, Mycadelic listeners. But,
Well, I mean, I've been suggesting.
But organize for
yeah.
good.
Yeah, I've been.
Kill with love.
yeah, kill with kindness. Well, man, yeah, thanks for sharing that story. I mean, that's some profound shit. I mean, it's you know.
Yeah, thank you all for listening, and I appreciate you holding this virtual space for me to be so vulnerable.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, tell people where they can find you, where they can follow you, where they can go if you're here in Denver. Yeah, tell them, give them the whole rundown.
Okay,
here.
quick ego break. So you can find me on the beautiful mind-altering platform of Facebook. First name Bill, last name Byrnes, Byrnes. But on my Business for Good side, at GoodCinema Co. on Facebook and Instagram, and our pretty non-updated, defunct Twitter page. But yeah, check us out on Facebook. That's where we have all of our events. We also have a website, goodcinema.co. That's got all of our past events, future events, current ones. And another big shout out I want to give is to my wife, Laura Fisher. She is our storyteller, and she tells stories of humanity. So she's written them about some very interesting and just amazing people that are doing amazing things that were facing very, very difficult situations. And the goal of these stories of humanity is to tie a story of a real person that has dealt with an issue that we're focusing on at one of our events to help build empathy and understanding and show a new perspective so that people look at things less as a political issue and more of a human issue.
Awesome. Bill Seiben. I release you from your psychedelic nickname for this current period of time. This concludes the podcast. Thanks, everybody. Follow me on Instagram. Follow Mycadelic_podcast or Mycadelic podcast, whatever. I forgot what it is. I haven't been paying attention to it so much, and I recently just realized that, you know what? It's probably good to release more content. So follow me on there if you guys want cool quotes, book recommendations, music that I'm listening to, just sharing stories on Instagram stories and stuff. I'm going to start using Instagram a lot more, so check that out and look forward to chatting with you. As always, message me anytime. I will respond. I love all you beautiful people. Peace. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Hope you guys like these podcasts and enjoy them. And if you do, please spread the podcast, share it, tell a neighbor, tell a coworker, tell a friend, tell a cat, tell a mouse, tell a dog, tell an ant, tell a firefly, tell whoever you tell. Share it, spread it, like it, all that good stuff. If you really love the show, you want to go a step further, you really want to help us out, leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and go to patreon.com, Patreon/Mike Brank, and patreon.com/Mike Brank, and you can donate as little as $1 a month, $2 a month, whatever you want. Help support the show that way as well. But remember, I love you guys no matter what you do. I just love that you tune in and you enjoy these podcasts. Message me. I like hearing feedback. Get in touch with me on Instagram, Mycadelic Podcast, Mike Brank on Facebook as well. And thanks to our sponsors, Synchro and Hemp Bombs. If you want a discount on ketogenic and plant-based nutrition products, go to Synchro and type in the code Mycadelic at checkout to get 20% off. And they have amazing ketogenic chocolate fudge called Keto Mana that I have all the time because it has like no sugar and carbs in it. So it's great. And it's delicious. And if you want CBD, go to hempbombs.com and get 15% off all your CBD needs, I guess. And just enter the code Mike15 at checkout. But thank you once again to everybody. Thanks to Danny Barnett and Galaxia for the music, the intro and the outro. I love you all. Peace.